Hey, District 2 sports fans, it's Gregory here, and I want to tell you about our new sponsorship here. If you're looking to make your business stand out, you've got to check out Chaos Cartel Company. They specialize in custom shirts, hats, tumblers, banners, and so much more. And the best part, there's no minimum order, and their pricing is amazing. I should know because we have a few shirts from them. Whether you're a small business or just looking to get some cool merch, Chaos Cartel Company is here to help. They love working with other businesses to bring your brand to life. If you want to get started, give them a call at 434 489 6123 or shoot them an email at chaoscartel1, and that's the number one, at gmail.com. Chaos Cartel Company, making your business look good, one custom piece at a time.
You are now listening to the District 2 Sports Podcast, available on all your favorite music apps. Like and subscribe.
All right, so District 2 Sports Podcast. We're here with another great interview today. We're here with the first-year head coach of Link Academy. Oh, Big Ray has something today.
Yeah, Gregory, I got to stop you first before you introduce our special guest. We've got a avid listener that I think we need to shout out to before we introduce this special guest today.
Steve, we got him. We got Chad Myers here today. Steve, he might need like a finder's fee or something like that. He's been talking about getting Coach Myers on here this whole time. So Coach Myers, first-year head coach at the Link Academy. Coach, how are you doing today?
Good, great. Great to be on with you guys.
Thank you, Coach. We appreciate it. So my first question is always about your background and kind of getting to know you. How did you get into the game of basketball? I know you played at Shepherd, but if you can talk about a little bit before then and how you even got into the game of basketball.
Yeah, just as a kid, I grew up being around basketball, and I was really fortunate when I was first born. Del Curry and those guys, Bobby Beecher, were playing at Virginia Tech, and my dad would take me to games before I even knew where I was actually going, right? So I'd sit there and watch the Metro, which was a long time ago, and I remember even being at the Metro tournament in Roanoke. It was the last year they had the Metro Conference. It's obviously not in existence now. And then same thing, growing up, he coached AAU in Roanoke. His teams would go play against Boo Williams, and they had Allen Iverson and Joe Smith, and I was an 8-year-old ball boy, and I was always out on the court trying to shoot and just always loved the game. And then, I always really wanted to coach, I think just because of people that he had relationships with and know. And then when I was probably, I think it's second or third grade, you have to tell your teachers, what do you want to be when you grow up? And I tell everybody, hey, I want to coach basketball. And they sent me home and told me, hey, you got to find a job that you actually can do full time and all that stuff. And I said, no, all my dad's friends, they coach, so that's what I'm going to do. So it's always kind of been my goal, obviously, wanted to be a college basketball player. I was pretty realistic. I was a 5'11", not super athletic, not super fast, but I was a pretty good shooter. So I knew my career would end. And then once it ended, I knew I wanted to get right into coaching. So kind of like, since I can, even remember, I probably could even talk, really, I always wanted to be a player and a coach. So my whole life has kind of been based around, obviously, getting and making those steps. And fortunately, I've had a lot of success and been very lucky for the people I've been around.
Coach, are you a Terrier?
I am. I went to William Byrd High School. So, yeah.
So did you go from there to play post-grad to Shepherd, or did you go straight to Shepherd?
So, no, I went from there. Then my senior year, I went to Camden Military Academy in South Carolina. We were in the same league back then, like Christ School, which still has a pretty good program. Carolina Day. So it's just a basketball move. We went down there. And then the next year, I actually went to Hargrave Military. So kind of a crazy story. Times obviously changed, but I was going to go to Pfeiffer University. I had a class schedule. I was enrolled and everything. And then I was chasing a dream, right? And everybody that went to Hargrave back then all went Division I. There was a lot of really good players. And then once I got there, I had 6 guys on my team that were going to the ACC or the SEC. And I realized, like, hey, I want to actually go Division II and have a major role and be able to play. So I kind of switched my focus and went to Shepherd. And then, I was really happy because I love basketball. I'd worked, out every single day. My whole life I was in the gym. So that's why I kind of made that decision.
When you were going through that process, like being recruited, at high school and whatnot, kind of going to the next level or at Hargrave, how did you handle that as a player? Did you get like multiple like offers and like had to do multiple visits and whatnot? And how has that experience today being a coach kind of helped you, or if you can go back and do things different?
Yeah, when I was at Camden, I got a bunch of Division II interest. When I was playing at William Byrd, I had, back then Hampton Sydney was really good. They played in the Final Four. Tony Schaefer was there. Um, so I like looked at Hampton Sydney, some of the ODAC schools that recruited me. Obviously, the financial, I was able to get scholarships Division II and Division I. So when I went to Camden, I went on visits to Belmont Abbey, Pfeiffer, Mount Olive, almost all the North Carolina, South Carolina schools down there. And then going into Hargrave, I really, every kid's goal is to play Division I, right? It's just reality, and it's even changed more now then. And then it was probably hit me in the face one day. Rick Barnes, I still tell him this story. He comes in here and recruits our guys. He was at Texas at the time, and he was recruiting a kid on our team, Stanley Asumnu, and he walked in the gym, and I'd hit a bunch of threes in practice. He said, if you were 5 inches taller, I'd give you a scholarship today. I said, well, Coach, I don't think that's going to happen. So I said, I appreciate that. And I just kind of knew, like, with my size ability, I wanted to go somewhere I could really, really play. And I think the experience of being at Hargrave and playing behind a lot of those guys, I knew my role was only going to be at a certain level, at the Division I level. So instead of being a walk-on, and I think every kid's different. I share this with our guys. Like, I didn't want to be a walk-on. I wanted to go somewhere and be able to contribute as a freshman and have a role. So that was just through that experience I gained, what I wanted. But I think it's very important as I coach these guys these days, like, doing what you want, like, and what role do you want is important.
And I don't want to. I mean, as a player, and like you said, you said you could shoot, and I kind of did some digging here. The old WEVIAC, I know it's the Mountain East now, but an outstanding conference. We talked to a coach from Concord who talked about how good the conference is. So a good basketball conference. But I don't know if you remember this or not. Back in 2004, you were Player of the Week, had 31 points against Bloomsburg, had 5 3-pointers, 21 points in the first half. So you could actually really shoot it up. Do you remember that game at all, or remember that time?
Yeah, yeah, I do. I do. I remember going up there. I can give you a good story on my dad too. So my first big game as a sophomore, we played a Division III team, and I was playing really, really well. I had 34 points. I'm never forgetting. I hit, I think I was like 13 or 14 from the floor. Just tells you how my dad is. As soon as the game was over, I took a bad shot. I was saying, oh, hey, I'm going to score 40 points in this game, and 5 minutes left. I'm about to get taken out of the game. As soon as the game's over, I come off the floor. Him and my mom are sitting there, and my dad says, you would have been 13 or 14, not 13 or 15, if you would have taken that bad shot there at the end. Yeah, but I mean, I had a lot of success there, and then broke a couple school records, threes and free throws. So I loved my time there. I wouldn't trade it for the world, but but yeah, it was a good time. I had some good players around me, so it helped me get open shots.
Hey, here we go. I like that, Coach. If you can speak on, I know you're a high prep coach, but you played on the D2 level. You talked to D1 coaches, but if you could talk to, or just kind of mention about recruits out there who all want to play D1, but there's also good talent in D2 and D3 as well.
Yeah, it was. I mean, I remember when we would play games. For instance, like University of Charleston was really good at the time. West Liberty had kind of started hitting their peak. Their coach is now at Nova Southeastern down in Florida. We would play certain teams in our league, and you would look at the roster and be a transfer from like Auburn, California, Marshall, West Virginia. Especially during that time in that league, you would get a lot of Division I transfers. And you look, you start going through the NBA, and you're seeing all these guys, whether it's low Division I players. I think they did a study the other year in the NBA All-Star game. I think there was only like 10 of the guys out of the 26 or something were actually high major players. They were either international or they play guys like Damian Lillard and Steph Curry and all these guys. And then you go all the way back to, Scottie Pippen and Jerome Kersey at Longwood and all these guys that, Dennis Rodman that have played at that level. Now I just think the experience, I wouldn't trade it just because I got a chance to play. That's really what I want to do. I'd invest in my life in that. And then, I think you look around and you see the success Drake had this year. And I think it tells you a lot about the basketball just because they went from, he had basically most of his D2 roster and he had a couple guys and he went there and he's obviously winning games in the NCAA tournament with basically Division II players. So I think, the continuity in the teams and there's not a big difference. We played exhibition games against Towson and William and Mary and some of those places when I was in college. And, we would be in the game to the end of the game. So I think people, they don't get a chance to go see or they don't go see Division II and Division III games a lot. You just obviously turn on the TV and see Division I. And that's what I always challenge kids with, hey, go watch a game, go to the Salem Civic Center and watch the ODAC semis, at the end of the year. Go over there and watch a Division II game in North Carolina or Tennessee and somewhere, I think. And that gives you a perspective of how good those guys really are.
Coach, I'm gonna go ahead and jump into a very, very controversial subject. I guess I'll go ahead and do it now since I'm the doom and gloom and the guy that brings the controversy to the podcast. You know, this NIL, this transfer portal, all this stuff. And, you just mentioned that, Rick Barnes is there recruiting some of your players. Do you feel like that you're going to become this stepping stone, or do you feel like that maybe possibly you're going to be skipped over some of your guys? Or, I guess when you got some of the top, players in the country, you're never going to be obsolete for no means. But I mean, how is this thing going to affect you on your level?
Um, in some ways, it's kind of twofold, right? In some ways, I think it's more important for guys to come and play in situations like ours as seniors. Um, I think, everybody says they want guys that are out of the transfer portal and older guys. I do think that's true in some levels. I think the most important thing they want now, because of the money, and because of the NIL and because of the pressure, they need guys that are more ready. So whatever that means. A lot of times college coaches, I think right now feel that they're more ready being at a Division I school and obviously transferring over because they've been through the games, they've been through the program, they've been through the practices, right? So I think that helps you get prepared. And we kind of talk about the same thing. Everything that we do, like our schedule this year is crazy. We played 17 games against the ESPN top 25 in the country, the final rankings, and then obviously all over the country. And then we had all 7 of our seniors signed high major scholarships. And then we have 2 juniors coming back, and we had a sophomore that are all top 60 in the country as well. So just the environment and practice, I think changes and gets them ready for college because from day one, we hope that they're going to be more ready because they practiced at that level. They've traveled like that. They've done scouting reports, everything else. But I do think the NIL has changed, and I think they have to have some reality, right? It's became more of a business. It just is what it is. If we don't tell them that and we don't prepare them for that, we're setting them up for failure. But this money's coming from somewhere, right? That's coming from a booster, it's coming from a collective. And when you start getting money, there's more expectations, just like all of us, right? When you get more salary, when my job as a head coach compared to an assistant, there's expectations are different, right? It's easier to like make changes and call as an assistant, right? So I think all of that is important. I think it's becoming a quicker like turnaround. Like these coaches aren't getting where it used to be 5 or 6 years at the high major level. Now a lot of times you look, it's 2, 3 years. So that's why they need guys that are more ready when they get them. And they also are very aware that like their rosters are going to change every year. There's not, a lot of places that you're getting all these guys back. So I think when they recruit them, they want to know who is the most prepared. So kind of for us, we've almost used that in a selling point is like, hey, we're going to help get you prepared to be successful as a freshman. And I don't know how much you guys know, we're in the Nike Scholastic League. So in the league, like if you look at the best freshmen in the country last year, you had obviously the guys from Montverde, with you had Cooper Flagg, Robert Wright, Asa Newell, Derek Queen, Liam McNeely, and then we had Trey Johnson and LeBaron Fallon that are both first round picks. VJ Etchcombe was in this league that's at Baylor that'll be a first round pick. So if you kind of really dig into like the freshmen that were successful at the highest level, a lot of them played in this league, and I think it helped prepare all those guys for having success right away.
My next question is we interviewed Garrett Stoneman from Oak Hill at the beginning of the year, and just basically how much pressure does this situation kind of put on you guys? Because he kind of alluded to the fact that it's almost impossible, and he was kind of saying it tongue in cheek in other words, but it's kind of impossible for him to be at that level and coach a kid that is worth basically millions of dollars, and trying to teach him and get him into a school. So how much pressure does that put on you now?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's just the reality of our business, right? Unless you're a high major head Division I coach, if you're a head, a high level assistant, if you're a coach at my level, there's going to be guys on your roster that are making more money than you, right? It's changed. It's just I think, not living in reality is the hardest thing. It is what it is. The game has changed. But I think at the end of the day, like I think the best players still want to be coached. I've always kind of lived in the philosophy of from like coaching Frank Mason, like a long time ago, right? Like those guys, you don't necessarily just not about, you got to have a great relationship while you're coaching them. They obviously got to respect you. I think you gain trust with time. But I think most importantly, all of us, hopefully if I continue to be successful in this business too, is like you want those guys to respect that you helped them 5 years down the road, and I think they see through that. They have so many people because of the money and the people around and the access and the NIL and the agents, and they have so many people wanting stuff from them. And I think it's actually the people that actually like pour into them and actually like hold them accountable and try to make them better. They actually have more respect for. I think it's always kind of been like that, but even more now with other stuff and the surrounding people.
Going back to Stoneman, I think one of his concerns, and you can speak to about Link as well, But I think one of his concerns at the time was a lot of these, and Gregory and Devin have alluded to this as well, but a lot of these pop-up schools, a lot of these pop-up cultures, whereas, we're opening for a basketball academy or this, that, or the other and bringing in kids. And then the next thing uh, whatever Brewster Academy, is out of business and no longer functioning. And that just kind of screws up your schedule just on a basketball basis, because now you've got kids that aren't playing ball. You can't meet the travel schedule, or you've already set your travel schedule up and now there's no team to play. So, I mean, are you seeing a lot of this, and is this a concern of yours as well?
So I think it's became much more competitive. And obviously Eric's done a great job when he was at Oak Hill, but I talked to Coach Smith about this a lot too. I've known Steve forever, and he's kind of like one of the people in our league. He's a commissioner of our league. The competition has changed, right? Like it was when I was growing up, like you would go to the Roanoke Civic Center, it was sold out. You had Stackhouse and you had all those guys, and there was only one or two of those places. And then kind of you got the Findlay and Huntington and some of these places popped up. Now, just in our league, there's 14 teams. I mean, I would say these jobs are considered just like, obviously they're not paying me the same, right, Greg? But outside of that, like this is almost like high major basketball. Like we spend all of our weekends on the road recruiting. We have to get kids from all over the country. You have to then take a roster and you got to develop and get them to play together. And you're playing night in and night out against some of the other best players in the country. Um, but I think that's where the biggest change have. It used to be like, if you were one of these places, you kind of had like either a kid was gonna like when I first got to Hargrave, either a kid was gonna like leave home or he wasn't, right? If he was like a high school kid. And that was really it. And then it became down there was three or four of us recruiting them at the highest level. And that was it. Where now there's like, these kids are taking three or four visits and you're having visit weekends and all that. So I just think the level of competition and recruiting has changed. I do think I mean I think this has changed as much as anything in the past 4 or 5 years. When I was at New Mexico State, I kind of started seeing this after COVID. Our classrooms across America in college have changed. A lot of these guys in the SEC, ACC, Big East, like a lot of these kids are only taking two or three in-person classes. Where it used to be like, when I was at Radford a long time ago, and like I thought it was a huge disservice to have a kid in any kind of online platform, right? Because I'm like, they're doing this in high school, then they're going to college, they're not going to be prepared. Now, when I was there, I mean, most of our guys in Mexico State were taking online classes. Most of the guys in the SEC are taking online classes with their travel schedule and all this. So I do think if there still has to be a school, right? Like, I mean, we have to have a school. I believe in it. I don't believe in kids living in a house, like at a rec center, like in a van, like all those kind of things. But that's what they've tried to like get around with this league, and they've kicked teams in and out and try to get the best programs in the country that obviously are boarding schools. And that's why Nike's trying to put money behind it. And I don't know how much he shared with you guys, but Nike and the NBA have kind of combined on the Scholastic League. So the NBA and Nike actually do a couple partner events. We had two or three people from the NBA office in here on our campus at the end of February for 3 days, just kind of doing educational stuff with the guys, meeting with our staff. So I think they're trying to get their arms around it. I think we all know grassroots basketball is not always in the best place it could be, but I think they're trying to make an impact, obviously, with this.
Coach, I've got a kid that just found out last week that I've got a kid that's 6'11". My newest son, I found out 6'11", about 225, averaging about 23 and a half and 12 and a half rebounds. He's also a good passer. He's got about 6 rebounds a game, but he's looking for a place to play next year. So I thought maybe you could sell him on Link, and the other thing is, you know. Just talk a little bit about Link. I mean, are you a full? I mean, is it a campus? I mean, are we talking virtual classes? Are we talking about in class, professors and stuff like that? I mean, if you could speak a little bit about that, I appreciate it.
Yeah. So Link is a very unique place. We set on actually it's a Christian camp that's been going on for 100 years, and that's kind of what we took. Link took over the school. We run it there for 8.5 months there on the campus. So it was already set up with dorms, lodging, cafeterias. They've obviously layered on the classrooms. So it's really like this. It's kind of almost like a boarding school. We're on the side of a mountain, but it's in Branson, Missouri. Just for the regional, I always tell people from like the East Coast, like Branson kind of reminds me of Gatlinburg and Pigeon Forge. It's kind of a resort getaway town in the mountains. You get like the whole Dixie Stampede and amusement parks and all those kind of things. As a kid, I saw like Pigeon Forge and Gatlinburg. So it's kind of a very unique area for them that has stuff to do, but I always say it's not too much to do. But we do have in-person classes. We have teachers here on campus. The student body is about 120. They're going to try to grow that. They want to try to make it more of like a sports academy, but around the faith-based program. We're obviously a very faith-based institution. So that's basically the setup. And then as far as the basketball, our guys live in a lodge. So there's different lodges that set up for camps forever. So there's two people to a room. They have their own California King bed. So I'm trying to get them to move one of those to my house. And it's unique. They actually have their own bathroom in each of the rooms too. So each player has their own bathroom. Where it was different, right? When I was playing at Hargrave, we had a hall bathroom when you carried your little thing down the hall, and right. So I think the dorm setting, they're 100 feet from the gym. Outside of like the postgraduate team uses it when we're in class, but our guys, there's multiple gyms on campus. Our guys have 24-hour access to the gym. Uh, we obviously have a dining hall with 3 meals a day. And then we actually have a commercial refrigerator that they package the food every night. So our guys can come in at night after workouts and get more food and nutrition and stuff. And same thing. So we are set up as a school with a campus. So it's not like one of these deals where we're living somewhere and going to a gym somewhere and we're in a van, which I do not believe in those situations. Now, our school being in person, we do obviously give all of our players laptops. So we can do some stuff through just most of these educational programs are through online platforms these days. So they can take it and we can do stuff on the road. And we have an advisor travel with us on these road trips because we travel so much. So it's really set up like a Division I like campus.
I'm assuming that just Tom, Dick, or Harry just doesn't show up at Link. I'm sure it's a recruiting process as well. Is that right?
Yeah, so I mean, obviously with our success over the last 4 or 5 years, we have a lot of interest. Multiple ways. We obviously get calls. Ton of people call us, college coaches, agents, everybody else these days, AAU coaches. And then we just try to put the roster together. Like right now, we have 4 guys, and then I think we could have 7 by the end of next week. And then we'll just build our roster out. Obviously, it's got to be by position need. We had 2 guys coming back that played major roles for us. One started, one was like the first guard off the bench. But we're kind of like just like every Division I school now, building a new roster. And we've got a commitment from the kid that was the state player of the year in Illinois last year as a sophomore. Davion Thompson's really, really talented. And another commitment from a kid, Cameron Barnes, that's top 50 rising junior, like a 6'6", 6'7" wing. And then I've had a couple centers on campus yet. So it's a whole process. I'll spend most of my weekends going to AAU, and then these families come in and visit. We go through like the whole process like we would on a Division I recruiting visit. So.
Well, Coach, just talking or speaking to the talent that you kind of mentioned and from the team this past year. I mean, obviously you have Sinak, who's a top 10 guy, going to Houston, Grayberry, Easter, Clark, Hannah, all these different guys. And I'll ask a question that we asked Coach Stoneman a while back, which was, obviously these guys they come to you and first and foremost, I assume they want to win, but they also are trying to get to the next level. So how do you go about managing each player's role and guys who are coming from their other high school where they're probably the best player on their team to now having to sit on the bench for a little bit longer and still trying to make that D1 level?
No, it's easy, right? No, I mean, I think that's the hardest part, right? Like, and that's where we could get into like certain college coaches, but everybody says like, John Calipari, it's just easy, right? He had all the good players for a long time, and it's easy to get those guys to play together. We joke, like a lot of my friends now that are like Division I coaches that say like, hey, we're basically like prep school coaches now. We got to put a new roster together every single year. And that's part of the challenge. I think you got to do a really good job in recruiting. We try to be honest, like, hey, your role is going to be different. Your shots are going to be different. Now, the one thing that we do have is we get 24-hour access to these guys all the time. So as far as the development piece, I think development happens 200 days a year, not just obviously in the game. So you got to look at like the big picture. And true development is like, especially like a guy like you mentioned, Chris Senack. Like we had Chris Senack, John Clark, and Amari Bynum. They were all top 10 big guys in the class. So you can go anywhere. I truly believe you could go anywhere in the world. You could hire me to be a trainer in any city in the country. Like I can put you through drills, but having another live body and another guy to go against every day is the second part of development that I think a lot of people leave out these days. Is you actually got to then be able to put it into action against other real players. So I think, our development, we do it every single day when these guys are here. We obviously do the basic ball handling, shooting, finishing, all that stuff. But then, we get right into 3-on-3, 5-on-5. So they got to actually take those skills and then put it against somebody else. And that happens every day while they're here. So that's a huge recruiting pitch for us. But it's always like once we get to the game, right? Like, I mean, just the reality is we try to show them and we try to really get into our scouting. Every game is going to be different, right? You can turn on the NBA playoffs right now. And for the most part, like some guys on certain nights, like everybody wants to take 15 shots, but if they double every ball screen with our point guard, like, I mean, you got to get rid of it and move the ball. And we always say, hey, just make the right basketball play. So if it's If that means you shoot 20 shots that night, then you shoot 20 shots that night. But trying to be efficient and not hunting shots. So we try to give them a lot of like data and stats and show them film, just showing them how that translates. And then, there's the old video from a long time ago when Calipari, when they won the one title that they won, obviously at Kentucky. I think it was like Anthony Davis, and then I forget who else. I think it was the other four they had. They were like the fourth and fifth shot takers on the team, and they were both top 5 picks, and that's kind of we spent a lot of time with that with Chris. I mean, he's so talented, and obviously he's played in all the McDonald's, Jordan games. Like if he's just efficient and makes the right shots and his length and ability, like he'll be a top 10 NBA draft pick. He could take 7 shots a game and get there, So
So,
How,
Coach, go ahead.
how many times do you ask about the old Massanutten and area, what Fletcher Ariat and Hargrave days, Coach?
Oh man, I miss Coach Harris was the best. So I visited Fork Union Hargrave. When I played at Hargrave, Mike Preston was the head coach and Mark Byington was the assistant. And then when I worked at Hargrave for 3 years as an assistant, Kevin Keats was the head coach. So I felt like I was almost in like the highest level. I don't know if my dad told you this, but like Brooks Berry married Fletcher Eric's like daughter, and he's a Roanoke guy. My dad helped him get to Fork Union, so I kind of grew up in that area. I'll give you guys. I don't know if anybody's even shared this ever, but Wes Miller's the head coach at Cincinnati now. He was at New Hampton. So when I was at Hargrave, we played those guys. They were really good. They had Rashad McCants was over there at New Hampton. Every year, right before Christmas, there was the Fork Union Invitational. That was like the big thing. And they used to actually bring 2 New England teams, and then Hargrave and Fork Union would come. And I mean, it'd be the who's who, right, of coaches and players. And we would sleep in the basement at Fork Union. We would actually I remember the first time when I was a player, they said, hey, you pack like a sleeping bag and a pillow, and we're just going to stay the night over there at Fork Union. I'm thinking, all right, we're going to stay in the dorms. So like we pull in, and there was literally cots and like bunk beds set up in the basement. Now I've been talking about, you could go through the list, like Coach Aaron. Obviously, I wish he could tell you all the pros and stuff that were in there. But I mean, just on our team, we had 6 top 100 guys. Rashad McCann, were at New Hampton, Wes Miller. I mean, I think Bridgeton had a bunch of guys, and Fork Union was always good. So I miss those days. I mean, I thought it was completely different than when I got to Massanutten my first year. Obviously at Hargrave, they had Montrezl Harrell and all those guys. Me and A.W. Hamilton were roommates for 3 years. So we were both Coach Keats' assistants. So we lived together. So then at that time we were playing against each other. So we're always probably like fighting each other and recruiting the same players. And so my first year they beat us. And our second year we actually beat them. They had Terry Rozier and we had Frank Mason. So I mean, you couldn't ask for a better like point guard battle. And then it just went back and forth throughout the year. So I mean, that's kind of where I like cut my teeth. I think everything I do kind of came from those situations. Obviously being at Hargrave with Keats, and then obviously the head coaching experience. I mean, Maston gave me a chance when I was like 26 years old, and everybody told me when I took the Maston job, how you can't win there. They can't beat Hargrave and Fork Union. And then we had a bunch of success, so it kind of just helped prepare my career. So.
Coach, what has it been that you found success? I mean, you coached at, I think, Elevate. I think you put at Massanutten. You've been at IMG, and you've won at all these places on the post grad or high prep level. So, what has it been for you for the success? Is it just recruiting, or just kind of just getting them on the campus and make sure they get to the program?
Yeah, I mean, I think the most important thing is we had good players. Obviously, I think it helped me. Like I just kind of get almost like a 3 year behind the scenes look at it as an assistant coach. It's easy to make decisions and have an opinion when I was sitting over there with Keats, right? Because if we lost, it was on him, not on me. So that was but we won a lot of games. Right? I think we were like 82-7 in 3 years. We went undefeated, won a national title my second year. So honestly, like a lot of it is, I say, it's credit from like, I do think like what you guys asked earlier, me playing at that level, I had a good understanding of what we kind of went through. And then when I was a coach there as an assistant coach, I kind of saw the other side too. And then, so when I got the job at Massachusetts, I just felt like I was really, really prepared. And honestly, I just did exactly what we were doing at Hargrave. Like I just took the same blueprint from like how we played, how we traveled, like what we did on a daily basis. And I just kind of ran with it, right? And obviously they were obviously the top right then. Fork Union had been good for a long time, but Hargrave had kind of taken over the reign with Keats there being the best prep school in the South. So, I just kind of went with the exact same thing from how we split our money, how we scholarship, how I hired my staff, the gym time. And then the end all, like, I mean, I still tell these guys, like my passion's always been like getting in the gym and working with guys and staying in there. Like I had to, like I told you guys, I was a 5'11" slow player. Like I was, so I've just kind of always taken that. Like I'm always in our skill development stuff from the day. Like, I mean, if we practice every morning 10 to 12, and our guys go to class, and we come back at night 6:30 to 8, and I go every single night on Saturdays and Sundays when these guys are here. I'm in the gym with them on Saturdays and Sundays working. If they're not, I mean, we obviously have so many guys in the fall that are on college visits, but the guys that are here. So I think one is you got to recruit really hard. I think you obviously get good players by relationships. So I've always just, when I first started Hargrave, we had no money to travel. And I mean, I would find out like how I could like go sleep on somebody's floor at an AAU tournament and go to the gym and just, and that's just kind of how you get to meet people, right? Like you go, when I was playing in college, I would go work 6 or 7 camps. Like I'd go work Morgan Wooten's camps and hoop group camps. And like I would just pack up my car for the summer and drive place to place and, use the gas money to get to the next place. So I think through all those times and all the experiences, I just met a lot of people. And then I think that helped me obviously build relationships and with those. And then it came down to like, hey, those people tell you like who you can recruit, who you can't get. And I just think in the recruiting game, sometimes people say it all the time, the best answer is yes. Sometimes the second best answer is no. So you don't waste a lot of time. So it's, and I've always just tried to do that. But fortunately, because all those experiences, so kind of day to day I operated just like we did at Hargrave. And then recruiting, I just think trying to like be at as many places and meet as many people and build a relationship as you can. So.
Coach, I'm a firm believer that the best CEO or the best owner of any business or what have you is that person. I'm not going to say that guy, could be anybody, but that person who has learned from the bottom up and start out sweeping the floors, gone through every level, and then wound up on the highest of the high levels. Is there something that and whether you believe, I mean, whether you agree with me or not on that, that's fine. But is there something that you have taken from each step, each move, each school that you have brought with you to build Chad Myers' legacy at Link Academy?
Yeah, no, I agree with you on that 100%. And I think it's twofold. I think, and I'll give you that to say, but I think one is like you said, understanding all the steps. I think you would say me and AW from a long time ago have been successful. He's a head Division I coach. I've been successful at this level. Like we watch the laundry every day, right? Like we woke up, I always joke, I see him now at AAU tournament a year ago, but like we were responsible for making sure Jordan Crawford got out of bed every morning for formation at Hargrave at 6:30, right? Getting those guys to sleep. So I think that that's just kind of how we were just on 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and we were nothing was too big for us. I mean, Keats would make us at 23 years old, like, hey, we got a guy out today. Like, I know you've done all this. Now put your shoes on and practice, right? So whatever, we need a 10th guy today. So whatever it was, and I've kind of tried to always carry that through. And I think the second part of that is like, I think I think from Keats, and then I worked for Brad Greenberg at Radford. And I really felt this too. I worked for Rob Kennedy at the Hoop Group for a year. So Rob Kennedy's a huge, successful, ran Hoop Group, ran Eastern Invitational. The Hurleys and all them had their camps through Rob. Like the people that are invested with you, when the boss is always there, I think it makes a difference in like your organization, like you said. So I remember being a Hoop Group and we're printing rosters and camps in the summer, and I'm like, man, it's 1 o'clock in the morning. We got camp in the morning at 8, and you would look to like the left, and Rob would be sitting over there, going through the rosters, making sure it's good. Like probably drinking a Coke and eating pizza with like ranch dressing or something over there, right? But it's 1 a.m. and he's in there with you, and I think that's how you like, that's the biggest thing I've taken. I think that's just me in general, but like I'm never going to ask somebody to do what I wouldn't do. I was on a staff or haven't done. And I think making all those steps, like, for instance, when I first got to Radford, I was in charge of like all the travel. Like Keats had me in charge of a lot of the travel stuff. So when we do that, I don't take that for granted, like the details and like, just getting to the hotel rooms, getting the bus, getting the planes, all that stuff organized. It takes time. And then same thing with practice planning and same thing at night, like, putting guys, for us, it's checking curfew, getting guys up, getting them what they need, taking them to Walmart. Like, I think all those things I've just implemented in my program and the stuff that we did. And I honestly think that's how you gain trust in these kids is just your time. I mean, we could all sit here and say a lot of stuff, but like the true trust and belief comes from the time you spend with them. And I tell them when I recruit them, like you're going to trust me like going into the year, but like the time hopefully that we give and the time we help you with your game and everything else you need, that'll get to the true trust by the end of the year when it matters. So.
Coach,
Go ahead.
I want to ask, just in terms of, your coaching philosophy a little bit. How much does analytics play a role in your guys' offense or defense or whatnot in your game plan? The reason I ask is, I feel like a lot of D1 programs are kind of, I don't want to say eliminating the mid-range jump shot, but kind of, decreasing their shot attempts at that level and focusing more on either getting shots around the rim or focusing on threes. And I think you saw that with like Alabama and the Sweet 16. I mean, is that something that you've seen at y'all's level as well?
Yeah, for sure. I was actually I was talking to recruiting, but I was talking to Preston Murphy like 2 days ago. He's the assistant in Alabama. I've had like 4 or 5 guys go to Alabama. So we kind of go back and forth on it sometimes. So here's my biggest belief. You should shoot the shot in the game that you work on every day, right? And I think that's the biggest thing. Now, I think especially at our level and at the college level, just because the way so many kids work out and train these days, like I do think that like rim finishes and threes are probably a better shot because kids don't work on mid-range jump shots anymore. I think that's why it's made a change. I think that's why you see in the NBA, you see a lot of these guys shoot more of those because you get more ISO situations and they take more like, they would say middies and 15 footers. So we do chart that. The only thing that I like a little bit, the reason I really went to that, I've always kind of had that philosophy about like shoot what you work on, but I coached Cam Thomas and Boo Williams. So I would help Boo in the summer, and when he wasn't, I would coach the team. So we had a really good team. We had Zion, Cam, Mark Williams, JT Thor, a lot of really good players. And Cam would go to the gym and shoot like you guys have seen him probably. Like he'll go shoot these like fadeaway 16 footers off his like right foot, one leg runners. He would shoot 100 of those before practice. Like he'd be in the gym at Boo, like shooting 100 of those fadeaways over and over and over again. And I talked to Coach Smith about this. He did the same thing. So I think not every shot is the same for every guy. I think that's a big thing that we really try to emphasize. And I just call them like solutions, right? Like, I mean, if you can get to a point, like some people shoot 2 foot floaters, some people shoot 1 foot, so I think, whatever you're going to do, we have a plan to kind of work on that in our skill development. So we're not completely against mid-range shots, but I do think there's a lot of truth to like the stuff at the rim. One is getting to the rim, you get fouled more. Fouling, obviously going to the free throw line changes the game because it slows down the game and you get your breath right. You go to the free throw line, get your rhythm. And then just everybody these days work on threes, right? Like if you go to a gym, there's guys out there just shooting corner, slot, whatever threes. So that's just I actually got to speak on that tomorrow, like basically like player development. Like what is player development that translates into your offense, because it's like it's one thing to go to the gym, it's another thing to actually do something that you're going to do in the game. So we still let our guys shoot mid-range shots and floaters and stuff. So we're not on like the Alabama side, but we definitely chart and track, especially if they miss 7, mid-range shots in the game. So,
Coach, speaking a little bit, piggybacking off Devin's question, um, how much has like he said, how much has the analytics changed out? And the fact or the three ball. I mean, here we are, and I'm be honest with you, I did not watch either one of these two games, so I'm thinking of the Knicks and the Celtics. From what I gathered was game one, the Celtics shoot 60 three-pointers, and in two games they've shot 100 three-pointers. So that is my question. Does that change the entire influx of basketball? And then my B part of the question is, do you ever think that on your level or the college level that they will implement this 5 foul rule that has been implemented into high school, whereas, after 5 fouls, you're shooting two I guess that would be to somewhat speed up the game a little bit as well as hopefully hinder a lot of fouling.
yeah. So we do that now. So we do 5 fouls. We do the quarter system. But yeah, I mean, I just think Steph Curry messed the game up for everybody, right? Because it was easy to shoot threes. No, I mean, I think the good shots, right? The ones the coach, the best shot for me is the one you make, right? I tell them it doesn't matter if it's pretty. Like I would like to lead the cheers every night, but at the same time, yeah, I just think it's hard, man. Everybody, like, I mean, they shot 100 threes, and it's the world we live in, right? If they would have made, let's say the first time, if they'd have made 33 out of 60, they would have been, everybody been on First Take talking about this is the best thing for basketball, right? And then when you miss them all, obviously you gotta go and you're the opposite end. I think it's very similar. Like if you watch Alabama in the tournament, I think one of those games, Alabama set a 3-point record. Um, but then again, like I think the biggest change in basketball that I've seen in the last 20 years is the scouting so much more in depth. There's so much more video, there's so much more access. Even at our level, like all of our games go on Synergy, and we have an iPad on the bench that gives us live stats, and then we can pull up live video at halftime and watch it with our players. So I think I think Duke did a really good job of scouting Alabama and running them off the 3-point line, right? Which caused them to have confusion, and then the other end all is they have great length, right? So their length really bothered them and caused them to take tough shots. I felt like that's what happened with the Celtics the other day. The Knicks were kind of like switching a lot, and they couldn't get clean looks. I think it's one thing to shoot threes. I think it's another thing to shoot like contested threes. So we really try to, chart there's some threes that you're just missing because they're open, right? You're just out of rhythm. You just miss the shot. It's another thing to just hunt threes and shoot contested threes over guys that, that aren't good shots. And I think that's where it comes into like what's a good shot and what's not, and then what's a good shot per person, right? The same shot for Steph Curry isn't the same shot for obviously like Gary Payton Jr., right? So it's like, and which one? Like it's still a three. Like you'd say, hey, it's one of the 45, but is it the same one because he's obviously a different player and can make that shot? So I think that's the biggest change. But I don't know. Like I hope we kind of get away from some of that where everybody just wants to shoot threes all the time. I think it's the game has changed. So there's so much individual. I forget who said it. Kelvin Sampson said it. I know this isn't the best take, but he said, "Hey, I don't want to encourage everybody to shoot. Not everybody can make them. Like, he's like, I want to. He's like, I want the guys that can shoot make them. And that was like, I mean, look, there was some things on my team like I couldn't dribble the ball 7 million times. I wasn't as fast. Like, I think just having a realization. I think knowing who you are and having self awareness in life and not just in sports is like a huge advantage for everybody. I tell our guys about it all the time. And then the things you aren't good at, like you got to get in the gym and work on them. But like you don't work out on them in the playoffs, right? Like that's not the time. Like that's when you get back in the gym and you shoot jumpers after jumper after jumper in July and August. And we had a big kid on a visit 2 days ago, and I mean he's huge. He's 7 foot, right? I won't give you his name right now. Hopefully he commits and it's out. But we talked about your development. Like our job is to put you in hard situations every day in practice where you're going to make mistakes. And then our job in the game is to make sure we put you in situations that you're not going to make mistakes and be successful. Now, how that aligns in the next 6 months, that'll depend on your role. And it was the same thing. I had Charles Bediako that went to Alabama when Nate Oates first got there. Like they worked on getting him to like dribble handoffs, ball screens, pass, moving on the perimeter. And as soon as they started games, like he would roll and get out of the ball screen quick and get to the dunker and rebound and block shots. But then every other day he was working on the other stuff. And they still shot like threes with him every day to work on his shooting and touch and ball handling. But by the time he got to the game, he was successful.
Coach, I'll ask one more question and I'll let Gregory get a couple in because I know I feel like I'm dominating this thing a little bit. But, I have to ask while it's on my mind, and, you talking about this visit from the 7 footer and stuff like that. Yeah, I have access to TarHeelTimes.com, so I keep up with recruiting and stuff like that. And I really, and I actually mean this, I don't know exactly who this quote came from. It was a player, but the quote was this. I really don't know. The question was, I guess I should preface this. Who is actively recruiting you? The quote was this. I really don't know. My agent handles all that. So I'm listening to you, you the players that are on campus and stuff like that. Do you guys make it a point to emphasize to these guys or make sure that they know what coaches are talking to them or are interested in them, what programs, stuff like that? Do you guys actually get involved with that to let these kids know that, Kelvin Sampson is looking at you, Rick Barnes is looking at you, stuff like that, so that they will know and maybe actually hone their game after some of their skills or some of the things that coaches might be looking for.
Yeah, 100%. One is we actually sell guys. I mean, when you come in here, I tell them it's like practice is almost like Peach Jam. I mean, there's days we got 40 or 50 schools sitting here watching us practice in the fall. They were joking like the Branson private airport gets more business between September and October than any time throughout the year because obviously all these guys different level now, right? Like I don't fly like that. These guys all are flying in private to the Branson airport and driving over. So that's one. Another advantage we have is that that we actually I think we have like 8 or 10 games that we actually can have NBA scouts at. So it's even a whole different level of like we'll have like NBA GMs. We played this year in T-Mobile at the NBA in-season tournament, like on the court. So like almost every NBA team was there. We played at All-Star Weekend against Montverde in Oakland when it was out in San Francisco. So, I mean, that's what we really talk because the reality is even the guys we coach, and especially the guys at Carolina, like all these guys think they're going to play in the NBA, right? So it's as crazy as it sounds is they're more worried about like the Golden State Warriors now than they are, Kelvin Sampson or Hubert Davis. That's the next step in their path. So, but that's what I think is the most important. I mean, efficiency is valued more at the NBA level than anything. And then they also talk about like every NBA team that comes in here, like I've had probably 15 call me in the last couple of weeks because we got Trey Johnson, LeBaron Fowler that are both a chance to be one and done guys. They want to know how competitive you are because the game's changed. Everybody does individual workouts these days, and they don't all go to the gym and play like they used to. And they want to know, obviously, just other off the court questions, but competitive and, how do they play with teammates and how efficient are they and how do they pick up stuff and all those things are the questions. So we try to share that with them a bunch. And I had Andre Iguodala's son play for us this year. So I had him talk to our guys once or twice throughout the year too. He's actually head of the NBA Players Association right now too. So he's in the meeting. So that's a big thing for us. Like we want him to like share, like, hey, like what is it like? Like one time I did it and I just said, hey, I'm out. Like y'all talk to him and ask questions. You know what I'm saying? I don't want to be in there. It ain't about coach. Like I want y'all to get like real feedback and let him tell you obviously what you're looking for at the next level. So I think that's hugely important. I think it's all a step of us preparing them too. And then kind of back to your thing on the agent deal. It's crazy, but that's kind of where we're at. I think the most important thing in recruiting these days for anybody, college, us, anybody, is just like who's the decision maker, right? And everybody's a little bit different. Unfortunately, like nowadays, some of these decisions are based off of NIL numbers. That's just the reality of the game we're in. And I think that's important. As you put your board together now as a college coach, like, hey, like you almost got to put a board together, like who fits this pot? Like if we have, let's say it's just number X, if you have $1 million, like which 10 guys can we recruit and get for $1 million? And if these guys are 2.5, which are crazy numbers these days, but it's the reality, then we can't recruit those guys. And you got to almost balance your roster. I think that's why you see all these GM moves and all that stuff. And I don't know if I necessarily like it or agree with it, but it's where we're at. And you either got to adapt or die. Right?
Right. Exactly. You brought up a big name just a moment ago, and this is a little bit controversial because we talked about First Take, and I got to mention this guy, Chris Russo. I'm sure you know Mad Dog. You
Yeah,
know,
yeah.
so the other day I'm riding down the road and I hear that the Golden State Warriors are going to retire Andre Iguodala's number and put it in this circle.
Yeah.
So this guy goes off, oh, I can't believe this. He only averaged what, 7, 8 points a game. But I sit there and I'm an old school guy, coach. So, you know, I saw the value and the importance of Andre Iguodala on that team. I wasn't necessarily a Golden State Warrior fan by any means, but at the same time, that guy did everything. He didn't have to score on that team. But he did everything to fill in the gaps. And plus, you just mentioned the Players Association. I mean, this guy is an outstanding citizen for one thing. He's an outstanding guy. He's a basketball guy, and he's looking out for the best interest of these kids now. And I'm just like, what a better person to put in that circle now. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, no, I agree. He was, and that's one thing I told our guys. I mean, one of the most values I think having him around is I tell them like, just look how he like carries himself, like as a human being and a person, right? Because he has every. I mean, obviously he scored a lot of points in Philly, and like you said, he went to Golden State and he made sacrifices to do different things and help them win. Obviously, he was MVP of the one finals, but I'm like everything he does, like that's what I told our guys. I said he might be in the ring because he was MVP of the finals and he might have done that, but he's not head of the Players Association other than because he handles himself the right way and he's about the right stuff and the people in the front office respect him. And that's as you see these guys be successful. So to me, that was as much as like there's obviously the basketball questions, but I just got the ultimate respect for how he like handles his business and how he operates and how he presents himself, which I think is a huge part of sports, right? That's what we all learned growing up. And not everybody's lucky to make $500 million being an NBA player. So those are the things that can carry over. Working with others, learning how to have a role, helping your organization, and obviously how you handle yourself, how you present yourself, all those things. And that was one of my biggest things I shared with those guys before we even talked to them. Because, like, I agree, like, there couldn't be a better role model in person for kids. So,
Coach, I just want to ask real quick. You had all success on the post grad level, but you left to take a job at New Mexico State as assistant coach. If you could talk about that decision and also your decision to take over Link Academy.
yeah, I think it was two levels of it. One is Mexico State had always really won. I was going back and forth with a couple places every year, like at our level. If you have a lot of success, you end up dealing with like college jobs. I was at Radford before. I always kind of had an itch. Do I want to get back in college coaching or not? I also kind of just saw high school basketball changing a little bit. To be honest, with this league starting, we had a lot of success at IMG, and even in my last year, we had Alex Caravan, AJ Storr, a lot of really good guys. The year before that, we had multiple high major guys, but I felt like just with the SATs and the college landscape and the COVID rules, the fifth year stuff wasn't as prominent as it once was. So that impacted it a little bit too. I saw the changing landscape and I thought, hey, this was a chance. to go with somebody. I knew the coach there, and I know he actually recruited Rashard Kelly that played for me at Massanutten with Frank Mason in like 2013. So just relationships. We had like stayed in contact. On that staff was Chris Jan, Steve Forbes, and then Greg Howard, who I worked for. So I just kind of like knew those guys had a relationship, and I knew the tradition of the program. Uh, I don't want to say, but I was involved with a couple other jobs too, and that was just kind of my decision. I thought I could go there, then springboard, and then obviously didn't quite work out like that. But so then I came, then Link, but this was kind of the space. I knew it was trending. So the reason I wanted to come back and be at Link is I knew it was trending to like these high school programs, which it wasn't like that. When I was at Hargrave, I thought we were as good or better than anybody in the country. Like we would scrimmage Oak Hill every year when they had Brandon Jennings and all those guys, and it would go back and forth who would win each year, right? Even when I had Frank Mason, me and Steve still joke like they had Nate Britt and Frank would let him get the ball to half court. He was like a really good player. He was going to Carolina. Obviously they had Troy Williams on that team. They had a lot of other guys. So I just felt like the high school space had completely changed. This is almost like a Division I job these days. How you can recruit. So that's why I was so excited about coming to Link when I left New Mexico State. So.
And what is after your first year, how do you feel like the season went? You went 23-8, played some really good talent, played in the it was the Chipotle National at the end there. So how do you think the season went?
Yeah, we won the EYBL Scholastic, which was the first year they ever had that, which was huge for us in the program. To be honest, like I mean, we were preseason 1 or 2, wherever it was, and then we ended up getting a 2 seed in Chipotle. We got bit a little bit, which is the nature of basketball with the injury bug. We lost John Clark from December 15th. He never played another game after December 15th. And he's obviously going to Texas, really good big kid. And then we lost Amari Bynum January 31st, and he didn't play again until the Chipotle game. I don't know if it kind of messed our rhythm up or not, but he was obviously having an unbelievable year. He went from like not rankings matter, but he went from like 98 to like 44th in ESPN. He was playing arguably as good as anybody we had in our roster. So I was really proud of our guys to be able to figure it out and win the tournament, knowing that we had two. We kind of like thought we were going to have 2 big guys play most of the game for a long time, and then we kind of we were going down to Miami and play Columbus. They were ranked #1 in the country. We lose down there after we beat them actually in New York City, and they won the national title in December. And we lose, and then we lose him. So then we had to go play at IMG against Arizona Comets, against Sunrise. We were like right in the middle of it, trying to figure out our roster and how we were going to kind of flip playing with these bigs to play with like 4 guards. So I thought we did a really good job. We beat Sunrise, beat Montverde, then won the Scholastic. So overall, we were really happy. Obviously, Scholastic's a huge goal of ours. Of course, we'd like to win 2 more games in April, but overall, to win the Scholastic, finish in the top 10, obviously, and kind of keep it going, it was good. And then a lot of our guys had individual success as well, too. So now the pressure's on. We got to win it again. So
There we go. Say, I was asking about that because I mean, you're playing a lot of great teams. Like you just mentioned, Columbus. You played Utah Prep, who has DeBonsa. You played the Boozer Twins at Columbus. You play. It's a lot of talent in there. So if you can speak on the talent you got to play, and then how much pressure is it to win these games and win this league?
yeah, so we have the biggest Jordan sponsor in the country now. We've been fortunate to do that and get a big back. I mean, it's pressure. These jobs are basically like Division I now, right? Like they expect you to win. We've obviously had a lot of success. It's crazy. We had more losses this year than they did the first 2 years, but our schedule is completely different now being in the league. So we played 17 games against the ESPN top 25. And like you mentioned, AJ DeBonsa was at Utah Prep finished 25th. So on the schedule, they were our 17th toughest game of the year was against the #1 player in the country. So it just kind of shows you like night in, night out who we played. So obviously doing that, you're going to probably lose more games and more road, which I think helps prepare these guys for college. Uh, but I think that's what we try to do. Like we actually won going into Chipotle. We had won more games against the top 25 than anybody else in the country, just because of our strength of schedule. And you kind of get to that right now. That's the thing in college. As you start getting seeded for the tournament, who's won the most games, who's played the most quad 1 wins, and all that stuff you see all the time. So that's what we try to do. And then obviously we're going to get these guys to leave from home. We want to try to play by. So yeah, we played all our Scholastic games obviously in the tournament. Then we went to Utah and played Utah Prep. We went to Dallas and played Dynamic, which was in the Chipotle National. They were the runner-up. We went to Miami and played Columbus. We played Columbus in New York City too. So we also played. Sometimes I think we were a little crazy with our schedule, but we actually played like 5 or 6 road games outside of even the league games, which is obviously the best league in the country. So.
Coach, who was the best player? Is DeBonsa the best player you had to go face against this year, or the Boozer Twins?
Yeah, I mean, talent, DeBonsa. I mean, the Boozer twins, I think, are almost the hardest just because they played together so long. They're obviously both really good and they have great chemistry. I mean, they played together. I mean, obviously they're brothers, right? But then that group has been together for, they won Pete Sham 15, 16, 17 as an AAU team. They won 4 straight state titles. So they've won so many games together. I mean, it was probably amazing that we were down 4 in New York, and then we rallied to win that game by 8 just because, late in the game, those are the games that it's hard to beat those teams that have been in those situations. But I think that's why they end up obviously winning the national title. It's just their team camaraderie and just, they know which guy's going to take the shot when. They know who to get it to. They know like when things are going good, how they get it fixed. So I think they were probably the hardest just because you couldn't really prepare because they just made all the adjustments where in scouting, like, if you guard them one way, they're just going to switch it and go do something else. So they were probably them two together, but Devonta was the most just gifted, talented player. And then Darius Acuff now at IMG is an elite kid going to Arkansas. He's like an elite scorer. He's a high volume guy, but he's really hard to prepare for just because he makes tough shots.
Well, Coach, I know oh, go ahead, Devin.
Coach, did you ever get? I'm just curious. Did you ever get a chance to coach at the Hoop Hall Classic in Springfield?
So yeah, multiple times. I did here, but we also were when I first started at Hargrave, we used to go every year. And I love that event. It's one of the best events. We're actually going back. It's not released yet, but we're going back this year too to Hoop Hall. So yes, we've been very fortunate. I got a chance to we coached City of Palms, Hoop Hall, so a lot of like the best high school events. We played in the Bass Pro this year, which is the highest attended high school event. So when we played in the championship game, there was like 11,000 people there. So it was new to me because I'm like an East Coast guy, but kind of a really cool situation and feel out here in Missouri too. So
Yeah, I was just curious because that's one of those events, the Hoop Hall Classic there, that I kind of became fascinated with as a kid, watching like Bishop Gorman back in the days with Shabazz Muhammad up there. And can you just kind of speak to the history of that facility that you're playing in, and just the history of the tournament?
yeah, I think it's just the whole thing, right? Like you get there and you get to tour the Hall of Fame. Um, to be honest, that's probably one of the best first place I got to know Coach Smith so well is they would be playing and we would be playing at Hargrave and we'd always end up going to dinner just because we were like both in Virginia. We'd scrimmage each other every year. So I think it's just like you said, like I mean, all those games now on TV on Monday. So you just remember seeing all those NBA guys and coming through there and the history and time after time. And that's kind of what's really cool to me is that just for the past, like I think 15 or 17 years, probably there's been like ESPN. That's the Monday Martin Luther King game. And those are always the best players in the country. And that's the one thing that you would watch when you were at home. So I think just that whole feel of being there. And I think City of Palms has a little bit of that feel just because it's City of Palms. And that was always like a huge deal. It's became like a huge tournament for 40 years. So, that's one thing for me. Exciting. I kind of grew up, I'm like a hoops junkie. So like being able to play in those events and being there, it's almost surreal. Like this year was really cool. Nike's done a couple cool things with the NBA. I told you guys we played at T-Mobile during the NBA in-season tournament. So we actually played at the tournament on the same court in T-Mobile Arena. And there's 10 NBA guys. When we beat Montverde in All-Star Weekend, they had Wemby give out the trophy to our guys. So like they were super excited about like Wemby and Kyrie and all those guys were going there. And of course, I gave them the speech. I don't care about any of that. I just care about winning the game. But like it was actually a really cool moment for those guys, and it was cool for me too. So
Coach, I got one last question, and I'm not going to pin you down on, where we see Chad Myers in what Power Five conference you'll be coaching at next, or what NBA job you'll be handling next. But I know you've got a very proud dad, so I can speak for that. But the other thing I was going to ask you is, going forward right now, what is Chad Myers' legacy, or what do you want Chad Myers' legacy to be known as?
everybody always asks me like, "Wow, I like this level." And I truly mean this. Like to me, the most rewarding thing is seeing guys that you coach be successful. Um, Probably the two most rewarding things. Like, and there's a bunch. I'm going to leave out guys. So this is going to be bad because I could give you 100 things. Two stick out to me like immediately, and then one was this year. I'll start with this year. It was like Tyrese Martin got a contract with the Nets. He was about to get cut basically from the NBA and be out of the league. He played for me at Massanutten. But the two most rewarding things for me was seeing Luke Hancock get MVP of the Final Four. I was at the Roanoke Athletic Club every single day with them. To be honest, he would laugh at this, but sometimes I had to beg Coach Keats to take Luke. I was recruiting him, and he's like, "Man, he's just." And if we were all three sitting on the call, they'd tell you the same thing. He's slow and he can't move, and he's a division So we all went through the same thing, and he was from my hometown. Then obviously, just it's Luke's credit; he did all the work, right? But we were with him along the steps, and then the other one was Frank Mason win National College Player of the Year. Because if you guys knew the amount of people that told me that like we were messing his career up because sending him to Kansas, he could never play there. We could go on this call for a long, long time, right? So like I think those things hopefully is like your legacy, just like the people like you helped. and you're just a piece of that, right? It wasn't me or it wasn't one other person. It's just like you're a piece of that. But to me, that's like the most rewarding thing, especially about coaching and being at this level. Um, I think that is, and then just I think that's like, but that contributes like the whole for everybody, right? Like just putting the time, energy, and effort of all the guys you coach. You want that to be your legacy of like when I was with them, like he cared. He always tried to help us. We had a relationship, like we worked and we try to get better. And hopefully they tell you like, it's truthful. Like you're not, I can't tell you you're going to make every shot or miss, but like, making sure that we're there every day and working and continuing to help guys. I think that's what you want your legacy to be. And I think that's why Coach Eric's so special. I think everybody feels the same way about him. Like you never hear somebody say anything bad about Coach Eric, and other than, when he was making them run or doing the stuff wearing the jock straps back in the day and everything. But it's a joke, but it's but I think and in 5, 10 years, I don't know. I think you just got to try to. My goal right now is to win a title at Link again and hopefully win the conference and championship. And then if you do enough good things, opportunities will present themselves. And you got to make the hard decisions, right? So,
Well, Coach, I know you got a flight to catch. But what's the summer for Cad Myers and Lincoln Academy look like?
I was talking to my wife. I think the next weekend I'll be home will be in June because I've got Atlanta this weekend, then I got to go to Memphis next weekend or EYBL. Then the next weekend's Kansas City, and then we'll have a little time. But it's just recruiting now, right? Like I'll get a little bit of time off. We'll have our guys, but between visits and putting our roster together. But I'll have to go to the next two EYBL sessions the next weekend, and then I'll go home. I actually get a chance to go see my parents Sunday, Monday, Tuesday after Atlanta. Head over to Memphis. Then I think I was looking today. We have like an NBA camp in Rock Hill, and then I got to go to Elite 100 in St. Louis, and then we'll be back in Augusta. So a lot of traveling, but I'll get a little bit of downtime. The one thing at this level, we don't have guys here for summer school like you do in college, so it'll be doing some of that. And I'll try to bounce around, obviously see family and friends, and then I always try to go and watch some college practices. Like I'll try to find some places because now with Division I rules, they can practice in the summer. So I'll find a couple places and go spend a couple days and try to watch them. So.
Well, Coach, if you want me to, I can text Todd Golden there at Gainesville, let you go down there and watch some practices down there.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, I'll tell you what, that's a good. He's on top of the mountain right now, so that's a good one.
They just signed him a contract extension, so I'm happy about it. So, and I texted Coach while he's at the SEC tournament. He's watching. I think you're watching Florida and Missouri, and I texted about like Go Gators, and I didn't hear back from you. I was like, oh no, I done messed up.
No, yeah, I was there watching. I went over there. I did give our guys a little 4-day break after that, so I went over there. I always try like that's always the exciting thing for me is we had 3 or 4 guys playing in the SEC tournament this year, so like it's hard during the year, but I love being able to go back and like watch those guys play at the next level. Obviously with Trey and LeBaron, and we had a kid T.O. Barrett at Missouri and all that. So, but
Well, Coach, we do appreciate your time. I know we've held you over a little bit, but Coach Chad Myers of Link Academy after his first year, Coach, thank you so much for being here.
thank you guys for having me.
Thanks,
Thank you,
Coach.
Coach.